This is the most controversial building site in Europe. When it's finished, they'll conduct experiments on animals here. Why? Should they be stopped? And if so, how? Welcome to Oxford Town Hall and a unique television event. Good evening. Those for and against experimentation on animals, men and women who sometimes have only traded abuse with each other, will tonight trade arguments in a special edition of Newsnight.
I started out in the very early 1980s as a hunt saboteur. I don't know how many hours I've spent on the street handing out leaflets. If I had £1 for every march I'd been in, I'd be a rich man. And finally, I ended up in prison. But you know what? Those 4 decades have taught me one thing. One very clear thing, right? And there's no disputing this. This is not anecdotal. This is fact. Do you know what worked the most? Direct action. That's what worked the most. That's what won the most battles for us. Direct action.
Mel Broughton is a hero to some animal rights activists, but a criminal in the eyes of the law. In 1998, he was convicted of conspiracy to commit arson as part of his campaign. Now he says he's given up violence, but is spearheading the protests against the Oxford laboratory. When the building is ready, this man, Tipu Aziz, will use it to conduct experiments, including the most controversial of all, on primates, our closest animal relative.
Let's listen for a minute. Can you hear anything? Can't hear it, can you? Yeah, man. Just there, see it? There are, at any one time, 16,000 animals. Right there, right now. Mice, rats, guinea pigs, monkeys, fish, ferrets, chickens, pigs. Can you hear anything? This is the silent conspiracy of vivisection. This is the silent conspiracy of animal research. This is what we're here to put an end to. But we know they're there. We know they're there. I don't know how much longer this is going to take. I've spent 40 years fighting. If I have to spend another 40 years, that's what I'll do. I'll keep going until I drop. I'll keep going until I've got nothing else to give. Because I believe, like you all do, that we have to do this. We have a duty. It's not just something we want to do. We are driven to do it. It is our duty as members of the human species to stand up for animals like Scarlet and the 16,000 other animals that are sat right there now. Because if we won't do it, who will? The grassroots animal movement has always been the driving force behind every radical change that's happened so far. And that is going to continue. When the final slaughterhouse closes its doors, the final laboratory shuts its doors, and all the cages are finally empty. I spent a long time, I spent years sitting in a prison cell thinking about all of this. And when I came out, I spent years more on licence, not allowed to talk to other animal rights people, not allowed to come to demonstrations for fear of being put straight back in prison. And in all that time, the only thing I could think about was getting back involved in the grassroots animal rights movement. Because without people like you, there is no animal rights movement. You are the engine.
Welcome to Oxford Town Hall and a unique television event. Good evening. Those for and against experimentation on animals, men and women who sometimes have only traded abuse with each other, will tonight trade arguments in a special edition of Newsnight.
When you take on the animal liberation movement, businesses have learnt we are a nightmare to take on. Once we get our teeth into something, we don't stop. The vivisectors know us very well, but any new building contractor that's contemplating taking on this project, they want to do their research into what happens with other building contractors.
Is it acceptable to break the law in the name of animal protection?
Well, when you say is it acceptable, you must put the background, you must put the level of suffering. And maybe you're never going to understand people like me. The animals are truly my brothers and sisters, and we're going to do what we can to protect them.
Now, I had a phone call last week from some solicitor saying they wanted to talk to me about incitement. Apparently, I've made some speeches where I've incited people to break the law. Well, I've got a very simple answer to that. You know what happens to these animals. You know how they suffer. Last week, 3 vanfuls of beagle dogs were taken out of MBR Acres by Impex at 3 o'clock in the morning, and those dogs were on a one-way trip. Now, I don't need to incite you, because you know as well as I do, there's only one answer to that, and it's fucking direct action, right? It's breaking the law if you have to. You have to break the law to help these animals, and that's what has to happen.
Yeah, I'm Mel Broughton from the Free the MBR Beagles campaign. We're here at Camp Beagle. We're outside MBR Acres today. This is a part of a campaign that's been going on over a year now, but certainly over the last 5 or 6 weeks since Camp Beagle established itself, it's drawing a lot of attention from local people and nationally. The reason why we're here is to draw attention to what MBR Acres are doing. MBR Acres are in the business of selling beagle dogs to the research industry. Puppies leave here at 16 weeks old to go to research labs across the UK, are used in toxicity research, which means these dogs will be slowly poisoned to death. They will suffer immensely. And the campaign, what we're aiming for here is to end the trade in these dogs, and also to secure a future for the dogs that still remain here. Now, beagles are used because of their size, because they're docile, they're placid, and they're easy to handle. The very things that make them ideal family pets, and yet here that is betrayed. These dogs are not protected by the Animal Welfare Act like dogs are outside. These dogs are bred as products to be sold to the research industry. They're products, that's what they are. This campaign is now drawing support from across the country, locally and nationally. People want an end to this. I mean, only 3 weeks ago we heard Priti Patel and the Home Office say that the government now needs to look at phasing out animal research. Now, phasing is a difficult word, phasing out was a difficult word, but the reason she said that was because she saw the footage from MBR Acres. She's aware that the public are now outraged by this, and it's about time it stopped. You know, it has to stop. And also, the scientific community is saying increasingly that these dogs are not predictive. They're poor models for researching outcomes in humans, whether it's drug trials or trying to find treatments for human causes. I mean, 9 out of 10 drugs that pass animal tests fail in human trials, clinical trials. So clearly, these animals are not good predictors for outcomes in humans. So therefore, there is no good reason for continuing with this trade. And the public are outraged by it as well. These dogs deserve better from society. The UK is known around the world as a nation of animal lovers. That's what we pride ourselves in. That's what we say we are. And yet we allow a company like MBR Acres, an American-owned company, to breed dogs to sell to research laboratories, knowing that they're going to suffer horribly, and also knowing that scientifically there's no good cause for this anymore. There's no justification. And the outrage that's being felt by the public is reflected in the size of the protests we're getting here. I mean, what you're seeing here is a people's movement for dogs. It's an incredible thing. What this camp and these protests represent is the voice of the general public, and that's why we will continue. That's why we're not going to give this up. I mean, we've been in MBR Acres are currently trying to gain an injunction against the protests, basically to stop the protests, and we're fighting that in the High Court. But it does show how they're prepared to, by the law, to continue trading in dogs. You know, and it's unacceptable. We saw 2 weeks ago the police turn up here. In fact, there was something like 20 riot vans to escort 2 van loads of dogs out of here. Now, that was clearly aimed at sending a message to us that they can do what they want. Well, that's fine, they did it that day. But the fact of the matter is, we have seen over the last 50 days that only 1 shipment of dogs has gone out to laboratories. Now, this is getting critical now, because the dogs that are in there are clearly growing older, they're clearly living in conditions that are not far from ideal. There are serious welfare issues at stake as well. I mean, here we are on a Sunday. The workers come in at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, they leave again at 12. They're not going to be seen again, those dogs are not going to be seen again until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So any issues that may arise with those dogs, no one's there for them. No one will see what, if there's any suffering going on, if any of the dogs are in distress. And that's completely unacceptable. And yet, because they're not covered by the Animal Welfare Act, they're covered by the 1986 Scientific Procedures Act. That's allowable. Somehow this suffering is deemed necessary. Well, it's not necessary. Scientifically, it's not necessary. Morally and ethically, it's completely indefensible. And we hope very much that we've reached the stage where we can finally draw a line under this and say that these dogs no longer can be sold to laboratories. It has to stop, it has to stop. And I think that's achievable. I think that's very much achievable. And we're seeing that with the kind of protests we're getting here, the kind of support we're getting. There is an appetite for change now, and it's high time the government acted, and it's high time that companies like MBR were stopped from selling these dogs to laboratories and treating what are sentient creatures as just products.
Okay. Can I ask you, what if somebody watching us now, what can they do to help the camp and help you? And what advice would you put out to them?
I think if people want to help, first and foremost, if you can spare a few hours, come here and be part of it. Secondly, make people aware. Use your social media platforms to tell everyone about the MBR beagles and their plight. Lobby your MP if you can. Get onto your MP and say to them, look, these dog experiments are scientifically unjustified and they're clearly causing an immense amount of suffering. It's time to stop them. So people can use whatever platform they've got to spread the message about the MBR beagles. Then the pressure grows on MBR to cease the trade. So there are lots of things people can do. They can get leaflets. They can go out doing outreach or whatever they want to do in their local town to tell everyone about MBR. We need MBR to be on everyone's lips across the country, across the world. Everyone's talking about MBR. Everyone's saying it's time to end this trade in dogs. If everyone does that, we can win. We can definitely win, and that will be historic. It'll be historic not only for the dogs here, but it'll be historic in terms of animal rights generally, because what it will show is that people can change what happens for animals. We're too used to seeing terrible stories of animal suffering and being almost paralysed by not being able to do anything about it. Well, look, what you're seeing here is people doing something about it. They're actually winning. They're actually winning an argument and they're winning the struggle. Now, that must inspire you. And I would say that to everyone, be part of it. If you care about these dogs, and if you care about what happens to animals, then be part of this, because this is going to succeed. This is going to change history. This is going to be a monumental and a hugely significant moment going forward about the way animals are treated, and in this instance, laboratory animals. And I would urge everyone, if you've thought about going to a protest and never done it, or you've thought about getting involved and never done it, now's the time to do it. Do it now, because if you do it right now, you're going to ensure that no more dogs suffer. And I can't think of a more powerful message to send out to people. Get involved now.
Well, thank you so much for everything you do, and the camp does, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that
all right?
Keith Mann, as I understand it, you were jailed in 1992, 1994 and 2005 for crimes described as animal terrorism. In your view, does anything go? Do you have any regrets about what you've done?
Well, if I can correct a few points that you made, we haven't banned cosmetic testing. We haven't banned the testing of alcohol or tobacco in this country. I broke into a laboratory in 2003, which is what I was in prison for, and revealed that we're testing Botox in this country on animals. We're not giving mice a pill once a day. We're injecting it into the abdominal cavity of baby animals, 4-week-old animals. This is extreme violence. 10,000 people die in this country every year because they're given products by their GP that have been tested on animals and passed as safe. This is violence. People are dying, and we're talking about broken windows and paint stripper on cars. There are big issues here. 3 million animals suffer terribly in this country every year. 10,000 people die. And we're talking about acts of economic sabotage.
So the short answer to my question is no. You have no regrets, absolutely none.
I'll make my point again. 3 million animals are suffering terribly. We are a nation of animal lovers, and we're torturing to death 3 million animals every year.
I'll take that as a no.
We've had to have bomb-proofing done of the windows, anti-incendiary letter box so that you can capture any incendiary devices that might come in. I've got CCTV cameras to all aspects of the house.
This man's company had only the loosest of links with Huntingdon. It was enough for his family to bear the brunt of a campaign of hate.
The most distressing things was the day I was actually sitting in the garden and Special Branch phoned me to say, we're now aware that there are letters within a half-a-mile radius of your home saying that you're a paedophile and encouraging people to hound you out of your home.
I think we have to move to a situation where our moral compass changes. I think, you know, we live in times when most people understand that animals are capable of suffering, not just physical pain, but psychologically as well.
This isn't a debate between animal rights extremists and scientists. There are a lot of eminent scientists in this room and on this side of the debate that want an open public debate, a proper inquiry, which we've never had into this whole area.
I've been called an extremist so many times, a terrorist so many times, a fanatic so many times. I don't care. If rescuing animals, if destroying the apparatus that tortures animals is being an extremist, I'm very happy to be one. I don't care.
Okay, I just want to bring Keith Mann in one more time on this question of tactics, because if all the publicity that the animal rights movement gets is violence, harassment, doing damage, that blurs the whole issue for you, doesn't it? It presents you as a group of nutters.
That's the media doing it, but we wouldn't be having this debate if it wasn't for those groups of nutters. We wouldn't know about the duplication that's going on in laboratories in this country and about the extreme violence that's being inflicted on live animals if it wasn't for the extremists, because no one else is talking about it. We're the only people that are raising this issue. And can I just add one more point? Go ahead, yeah. 240 MPs have signed an early day motion that's going through Parliament currently, requesting a proper debate, an inquiry into this whole area. That's massive. And I would suggest that our MP friend here hasn't signed that. And I do know that the protest group are contacting their MPs and asking them not to sign this petition. Why is that? What are they afraid of?
Why? And your friends and your comrades decide to take action, and you believe that action will further the cause of animal rights, then let me tell you something, right? Do not let any social media talking head or commentator tell you not to do it. Ignore them and do it, because you know what? That's how we built a movement, by that very attitude. Ignore them. Don't be put off them. Do it, and do it again. Saying, well, direct action's had its day, it's over. Don't need any more illegality or law breaking. I beg to differ. I think more than ever we need it. We need it now more than ever. We're at a crucial moment in the movement. Things are really happening. The world is in trouble. The animal kingdom is in trouble. It always was, but there is a crisis out there, an absolute crisis. You've heard people talk about it before today. I'm not going to add any more to that. Facts and figures, millions of animals, you know that. You know that. But each one of those millions or trillions or billions of animals, each beagle, each rat, each cow, each sheep is an individual. You fight for that individual. You give everything to save that individual's life. And that's why you are grassroots animal rights activists. So let me ask you to do something. Stand up. Get up. Stand up. Come on. Right, everybody get up. You are the movement, right? You are on the march for animal liberation. Look at the person next to you. That's your comrade, your fellow liberator, your fellow campaigner. Work with those people, right? Do not be put up by anyone. Look at each other, stand up and be proud, right? Because you are going to make history. The animal rights movement is the greatest movement in human history. And it's as necessary as ever. And you have to take it forward. You, the activists. Whether you're camped outside MBR, an Impex every morning, whatever you're doing matters. Whatever you do, give it everything you've got for those animals. Nothing else will do. They are depending on you. Their lives are in your hands, right? We will not let them down. We've come a long way, a very long way. The police have tried to destroy this movement more than once. More than once they've tried to finish us off. And each time we got back up and hit back again. So let's do it again and again. Let's just keep going.
We want information. Information. Who are you? The new number 2. Who is number 1? You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a a free man.